We're just waiting for New World to finish loading here. If it will ever finish loading. There we go. So, cool. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to start walking to what I think is one of the best views in that the game has to offer. And that view is... You know what? Let's just start walking there. Let's see how far we can get. I'm curious. Okay. And let's turn on sound. While we're going. So, ladies and gents, I am, again, the Centrist. As you can see, a lot of things have changed. I'll let you look at my character here for a second. As you can see, I'm now playing... I'm still playing on the same server, but I'm now playing as a... I'm now playing as a Covenant. I like practically forget the name. That's what I'm at now. 44 gear score is not terrible. 58, level 58. And we're going to be heading to my favorite view in the game. Or what I think is my favorite view. Or the view within reach. The view that I can remember. So this is going to be a long hike, but I've got a lot to talk about. Because I finally decided that I could not play this game for another minute without doing my review. Originally, I was going to wait until level 60 to do this. I just can't. I can't keep dealing with this. So, a couple updates why I haven't been streaming anything at all. One, I've been highly busy with New World. I've been finishing that. And, like, view my last video if you want to see why I stopped streaming New World. And I did say I'd be making a review in that in that video. So this is the review. The second reason is I've had a lot of IRL stuff going on. So my political career has finally managed to actually accomplish something. Hallelujah. So I now actually have a job. I'll not say what that job is, but it is enough that I can like live and actually start paying back some of my debt. So that's a huge win. So that's what I'm going to pretty much do for the next year. So for the next year, my goals are to do a lot of streaming and to do it in a way that allows me to be really consistent. But I want to finish up New World first, or as much as I want. And so this is where this review comes from. So to illustrate my story, to begin this review, and what I titled it is the most frustrating game I've played ever. And it is the most frustrating game I've ever played. But to illustrate that goes into a special category of mine for how I view media and entertainment. And not just that, but how I view the world. So, to me, the greatest achievement you can make in your life, or the greatest achievement anything can have, is living up to your potential. If you have, you know, if you have the potential to get to step A and you get there, then like you've accomplished your life's purpose. Well done. You know. And that looks different for everyone, you know. If, you know, so I don't like to judge people based on what they accomplish. I like to judge people based on what they accomplish for them. You know, so if someone, you know, has a lot of struggles and they still manage to pull through and scrape together like a decent living, I like applaud them a lot more than someone who maybe makes way more money but started much more privileged and just wasted their potential. That's sort of the way I look at it. And so when I go to a theater, right, and I watch Resident Evil, the final chapter, as dumb as that sounds, which I did, by the way, do. I actually went to the theater to see that film. I am not, like, depressed at the movie. I enjoyed the movie for what it is. I didn't go there thinking, man, I can't wait to watch, Resident Evil, the new epic. I knew what I was getting into, right? So my expectations are lower, potential is lower. I get what I wanted. I get what I paid for. On the flip side, when a movie does have a lot of potential and doesn't reach it, I'm not happy, right? I was not happy watching Game of Thrones, the final season. I did not enjoy it. I thought it was... I hated it, as a matter of fact. But to explain something of this game, I'll tell you a story. And this is the story of my expectations being shattered and then meeting them. So, I don't know, 6 or 7 years ago or whatever, a disaster movie comes out in theaters starring Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. This disaster, you can already picture. This disaster movie is called San Andreas. And the idea of the film is that in Los Angeles, San Francisco, California, the San Andreas fault goes nuts and a lot of people die and it's crazy and spectacular. And so when I went into that disaster movie, I'm thinking to myself, I'm going to watch some very good CG, some very spectacular destruction, and I'm going to see Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson running around, probably trying to save his family. I hadn't seen too many trailers, but most disaster films have one character running around trying to save their family. It's, to me, that you don't go to see those movies for the plot. You go to see them for the destruction, because it's fun. So I sit down in the theater, and I start the film. And it starts this... if you've never seen San Andreas, I'm going to spoil the first, 10 minutes for you. San Andreas and probably the entire movie. So, yeah. But if you're worried about me spoiling San Andreas, there's something wrong with you. So, the movie begins, and you see this character who's, talking on her phone and texting and, being distracted driving. And she's driving on the edge of a cliff, so you're thinking, man... At a certain point, you're almost, hoping, knowing she's going to get hit by something. Or she's going to, take a spill off of the cliff, and you're just happened already. Because they do, 3, it almost happened, and then they don't. And so, finally, it happens. A boulder comes down, smacks straight into the side of her car, and knocks her out. And she's, her car goes down halfway down the cliff. And I'm shocked to see this. Because the CGI effects of her car getting hit by a boulder and going down the cliff looked terrible. They did not look good at all. They looked completely fake. And I'm sitting there going really? This is it? Cue into the movie, right? And in comes this 4-man helicopter crew led by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. And they have very clever exposition of a news crew that's taking some footage of them, so they're able to explain some pieces of exposition very quickly through the plot, in a way that makes sense. And they explain that these 4 guys, led by Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, are basically war buddies who served on a helicopter rescue crew in, I think it's either Iraq, Afghanistan, or the Gulf War, one of the 3. And I'm thinking already, what, they're war buddies? Okay. And there's a younger one who seems more inexperienced and a little more impetuous. You've got the pilot, who clearly demonstrates superb skill right at the beginning. You've got one other guy, I think, who's a bit bigger, and then you've got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, who's their leader, their captain. And as they're pulling, and as this movie is unfurling, I'm starting to get a sense of is this what the movie's about? Hang on, let me set my Target. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to set it for right here. I'm getting a sense of, is this what the movie's about? Are we really doing this? There's no family within sight. No one's even mentioned it. No one's even mentioned the presence of a family. It's just these 4 guys. And I start thinking to myself, holy crap. This is what the movie is. It's not Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson going around rescuing his family, and that's all anyone cares about. The movie that we're watching is Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and his 3 war buddy friends go around trying to rescue people in this calamity. It's like Band of Brothers meets disaster film. And my mind starts exploding. The initial rescue of the woman in the trapped car is incredible. It's one of the best openings to a movie I've ever seen. Easily the best opening to a disaster film I've ever seen. It's tightly shot. It's exciting. It's tense. You're not exactly sure what's going to happen. And as they land on the tarmac, and the 4 of them walk out sort of as a crew, I'm thinking to myself, all right, I'm ready for this movie. Let's do it. A different take on disaster films. A different take on the genre in a way that's interesting. I'm already, my mind's going through, are they going to be facing moral dilemmas? Maybe one of them has a family, and the other 3 are like, should we be diverting, ignoring orders to save people to try to rescue one person's family? There's all kinds of moral dilemmas you could face with this issue, right? Is one of them going to sacrifice themselves for the group? Who knows? It's limitless what they can do with this issue, with this premise, right? And the 4 of them walk off, and Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson gets in his car, and that's the last freaking time you see any of them. They all just disappear. They're gone. And it's just Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson goes home to his ex-wife and his, like, estranged daughter, and that's the movie. And it's like, oh, right? Like, and it's just the same thing as every other crappy disaster film you've ever seen in your life. And I'm watching this going like, you had it. You had it in the palm of your hand, this amazing premise, and you just, like, threw it away in exchange for the old crappy one. And I was mad. I was mad in a way that I wouldn't have been if it had just started in, like, a traditional way. He's like, yeah, this is my ex-wife, and we're estranged, and we're going to fall back in love in, the middle of this film for no reason. I would have been like, yeah, whatever. It is what it is. But because of the introduction of that film, which was so, so good, and so much, and the premise of it, and what it could have been, that all I could think of that movie for the rest of my time watching it was, wow, what wasted potential. What a great classic film this could have been. And that's the same thing I think about this game, man. It's the same thing. It's... This game makes me angry. It literally makes me angry, because if a game comes out and it's garbage, and you know it's going to be garbage... I took one look at Fallout 76, and I knew it was garbage. You know? There are some games you play, and in the first 5 minutes, you know what it is. You know it's going to be... You know it's terrible. There are some games you play in the first 5 minutes, you know it's great. I thought this game would be great because of the first 5 minutes. So, I'm gonna give 10 issues that I have with the game, and then I'm gonna say what I think of it is on a score of 1 to 10. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I don't know what metric I'll have yet. I'll be doing a lot more reviews. I don't know what metric I'm going to use, but we'll figure that out later. So, the first issue, number 10. And we're gonna alternate, by the way. We're gonna alternate through a bad thing and a good thing, then a bad thing. Good thing, bad thing, good thing, bad thing. So in the end, there will be 5 positive points I love about the game and 5 things I hate. And I do hate them. So number 10. Just an intro that blows your mind. It's the game systems are so intuitive to pick up. Did I pick up a... No, I didn't. I'm good. I want to show you guys something down here. But the game systems are intuitive. Oh, get away from me. Everything is so well structured once you start. It deposits you on the beach, it goes through a cutscene, and you pick things up so fast. And it introduces you to the crafting system. It introduces you to the refining system. It introduces you to everything, and as you come out for the first time into what I did, into First Light, you just see the beauty and splendor of the game opening up to you. Alright, we're going to stop right about here. This is perfect. Look at this. Just look at it. This is what the game is. The first 20 levels of this game are so spectacular and so good and so immersive. There's a reason like millions of people tuned into this game. And $40 is a good price. And so you just start and you see that the game looks amazing and the splendor of it, and you start, it introduces you to the crafting in a way that makes sense, and introduces you to refining in a way that makes sense. And the first quests, you go through them and you're like, okay, let's do it, let's quest. I'm in an MMORPG, and you see all kinds of different enemies. It's just so good. And so, by the time I was up to level 20, I was thinking, man, this is like one of the best RPGs ever made. This might be the best MMORPG ever made. And only $40, that's incredible. But it was marred. Number 9. Server issues. The servers are full. Day 1. I had friends I wanted to play with. I wanted to play this game with Axios, a close buddy, who's like, we gotta play this game. I wanted to play on his server, which was Euphrates. I log in, Euphrates is full. No people, can't be taken. Not letting anyone in. You know, I started like 3 days later than everyone else because I had IRL stuff going on, as you can like trace back to if you look through my VODs. And you couldn't do it. I couldn't log on with him. And so I got separated. And so I tried to find a server that was like close by, still in Eastern Standard Time, because I figured there was a chance that it would get screwed up, and it did. There's so many better ways you could handle it. They had to know. And this is an issue that I'm going to keep bumping into over and over again as I work through the game. The game was not made by people who understand MMOs and how they work. Here's the thing, and this is, by the way, one of the things I hold is true about life in general. MMOs are built for a reason. The systems that exist in MMOs were originally built for a reason, even if it's been 20 years since the first point-and-click MMOs. Even if it's been 17 years since World of Warcraft hit the scene, right? that just because you've seen the same thing in MMO after MMO after MMO, and it might be like, man, that seems so stale. Why do we want to do that the same old-fashioned, tired way? Most of the time, when something exists in 50 games, that's because it's not like, that's because it's a necessity. It needs to be there. And just because we've forgotten the reason that it was put there originally doesn't mean that that reason doesn't still apply. Huge issues I have politically with people who are like, let's tear down the system, man. What good does it possibly do? As they, play their iPhones, as they listen to songs on their iPhones that was created by the very system that they hate so much. I could rant on that for hours, but in this game, the server issues are a huge problem, and they're a problem that they should have expected. It's a problem that so many other MMOs have had. It's a problem WoW Classic had. And Blizzard had the idea to do sharding, which is something that they probably should have done. Even if they didn't, they should have known this was going to be an issue. It should have been tested, right? If you've got 2,000 people, and more than 2,000 people are trying to get into a game, right? Like, that's an issue. So, there's this huge problem that develops right away. And then they compound this problem by announcing that it's going to be fine. We'll do server transfers, like, right away. So people are like, okay, whatever. I'll just make mine and then I'll server transfer. And then they just don't do it. There's a huge disconnect between Amazon Game Studios and Amazon Studios, right? Where the people who are like developing this game are very different than the people. I think that there's 3 different groups, actually. This is my opinion. There's 3 different groups at Amazon Game Studios. There's the technicians who actually know how the servers work and know like the physical mechanics of the game, of the MMORPG. There's the designers. And then there's the executives and the marketers. And the executives and marketers are like, yeah, we'll do server transfers, no problem. And they like consult the designers. And the designers are like, yeah, let's do server transfers. That's a great idea. And somewhere, some technician who was not in the meeting and did not get called threw his hands up in dismay, like, we can't do server transfers. Are you, like, that's not how the system works. No one talked to me. Like, so there's a huge problem with the scaling of who is responsible for what in Amazon Game Studios that I think needs to be rectified as soon as possible. Okay? So the servers are a huge issue, and I think it's a big reason why a bunch of people left, because they're not playing with their friends, and after, a while, that becomes an issue. So now now we go back to something good. Harvesting and fishing. Harvesting and fishing are so good. Let me look up what my trade skills are. Yeah. You can see mining 144, logging 119. Logging is tough. Harvesting 129, tracking's getting 287. It's a little unbalanced, as you can see. It's a little unbalanced, but there is something so satisfying about refining, or not about refining, but about harvesting and fishing. The fishing works really, really well. It's really intuitive. And you can go around for an hour just farming materials. And it doesn't feel like you're wasting your time. You don't hate yourself while you're doing it. It's still enjoyable. It's very relaxing. It's like a peaceful task and a chore that you can do. I think the harvesting couldn't be better, honestly, in this game. I think it's perfect. And I think this also extends to... a lot of the loot tables. The people who developed the crate system, I think, is sounded kind of interesting. But yeah, just I'm at level 86 and over 88 in fishing. What am I at in fishing? Let me check. Okay, I'm at 87. I'm almost 88. And that works so well, and it feels so good while you're fishing. And it's just so intuitive. It couldn't be better, honestly. That's my opinion. It could not be better. Number 7. Well, I actually have titles for these. So 8 was harvesting and fishing is heaven. 7, crafting and refining is hell. It's terrible. It's so bad. I don't know how you can get one essential system of your economy, the gathering, to be amazing, and then the other essential system, which is crafting and refining, to be absolute garbage. It's horrible. The gathering is so intricately laid out. If you get these mats from the zones and you go through the system, and you get hierarchy, and then in higher zones you get higher materials. This makes sense. And then the crafting and refining system is designed like a pyramid structure, which is insane in a lot of cases. But even if it wasn't automatically bad, there's no reason to craft anything. Here's what I actually craft because I need it. I've crafted bags. I've leveled up my armoring to craft bags. I've crafted steel arrows. I don't have a big reason to level up steel arrows beyond that. To make arrows beyond that, because I don't actually do damage with arrows that I care about most of the time. The bow's not very good. And that's it. And the rest is just like, you know, city jobs, territory jobs. That's it. That's not good. I should want to craft things as I go through the game. It should be useful for me to craft things, and it's not. Because the loot drops from most enemies are just going to be better. They're just going to be better. You get like 1 million of them. There's no like few and far between. Like most of the time loot drops off of like every 1 out of 3 enemies. And they're in crates all the time. Somehow, in the process of designing this game, the people who did the loot drops and the gathering system did not talk or have a conversation with the people who designed the crafting. It's completely absurd. There are so many issues with it. You need like 1 million iron to do anything. You need so much wood. You need like skinning. You can only get skinning from like raw. You can only get rawhide through like level 40 zones, and after that you just get higher material mats, and you can never get rawhide from any like level 50 or above creature. It's completely bananas. It doesn't make any sense the way they structured this game. You can make all of these weapons that are just garbage, and there's no reason to make them. There's no reason, like, apparently the crafting becomes important again once you're at level 200 in like a bunch of in a bunch of trade skills. That's gonna take forever. Why did they do this way? All I can think is that the people did not talk to each other. You've got some elements that aren't even in the game, they're so rare, and some elements that are all over the place, even though they're like level 4 and 5, even though they're like tier 4 and 5 materials, they're all over the place. Someone seriously did not understand how the crafting and refining of this system should go. I actually didn't even mention the economy at any point in this. Where should I mention the economy? I'm like trying to figure out. Should I do it right now? No, I'll mention it. I'll mention the economy at the end. No, I'll mention it at. I'll mention it as an addendum to 5. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, moving on. 6. PvP is kind of awesome. Well, I'll put it. I'll shorten the 6. The 6, the premise of the PvP, I think, is really well done. The idea of territory control is very cool. The idea of constant warfare is very interesting. The idea of tension and how much it impacts the PvE experience is very good. I think it's well done. This is a PvP game, and the rewards that they give you for succeeding in PvP are definitely worth it for PvE content. So I really like that. The wars are fun to be part of. I think now that they're like the bugs have been fixed, I think it's way better. But I'll get more into why the PvP is good in number 2. Okay, number 5. Open world PvP is garbage. Yeah, it is. There's no the rewards aren't high enough. 10% is not enough of a boost in XP to actually like be flagged all the time, because you will just get murked by people. It wastes too much time. It's not a good per capita deal. And there's not enough reasons to do open world PvP. Generally, the way the game is you should never be alone doing open world PvP. You'll always be in groups. So I think that the rewards for doing open world PvP have to be better, one. And I think that there has to be more reasons for people to do it. Because right now, there's just, if you do PvE in the game, you're just, like, you're untouchable. There's no one that can stop you. And I don't like that very much. Yeah, so here actually, I'll talk about, well, okay, so the economy is actually getting a little bit better. I think just because of how few people are now playing the game. The player population has dropped so much that the economy is almost stabilized, like, slightly. In fact, the prices might be a little bit high. It's kind of hard to tell, honestly. Yeah, it is what it is. 4. Again, a good point. The world has no mounts, and you get to experience it, like, slowly in all its beauty. I love that about this game. I love that. I think the fast travel works a little bit well. I could maybe use a little bit more Azov, but at this point, like, the balancing for the Azov feels like it's only off by, like, 5% or less. If I could change anything in the game, maybe I'd bump up the amount of Azov you get through the world by, like, 5%, but other than that, I think it's good. Now, this might change when I run out of quests. I don't know if that's the case. It's possible. Like, right now I have 500 lemon, but that's because I turned in a bunch of quests. So if there's no good way to get Azov other than turning in quests, and I run out of quests, I'm going to be very displeased. But I'll keep that as a question mark for now. So yeah, I love that you get to experience the entire world. It's great. I think it was a huge mistake in World of Warcraft. I think it's one of the things that hurt the game dramatically over time, and their decision to just not do mounts is great. I think in the end they will add in a couple mounts. I hope that they keep rewards like really good. Okay. 3. The quests and zones and enemies are really boring from 20 to 40. Yeah. So from after level 20, by the time you get to level 20, and by the time you get to level 30 especially, every player in the game realizes that everything they're doing is just going to be the same. There's no difference in zones. Not really. Brightwood looks like pretty much identical to Everfall. Like, slightly different, I guess, but pretty much the same. Or Windsward or whatever. Cutlass, there's so little variations on the zones at that point that there's nothing really engaging about any of them. The engaging Morningdale is the worst offender of this, because Morningdale is so boring. Looks terrible. There's no point to it. It's just garbage. It's a terrible zone. It's a terrible zone. And you have to spend so long trekking around it. Great Cleave at least looks sort of interesting. It's snowy. It's the only snowy zone, I guess. And then after that, you actually start getting into the good zones, which I'm bummed about, because Eden Grove looks great. Eden Grove looks great. Ebonscale Reach looks amazing, and Reekwater looks very good as well. So it's a real shame. Ebonscale is probably my favorite zone, so it's a shame that so many people just don't get a chance to experience it ever, because they stopped playing the game before that. The enemies are just reskins. Even at this point, they're just reskins, and that's terrible. It's I can't believe that the enemies are enemy variation should have been done way differently. Way differently. Whoever was designing the quests was a moron. The quests from 20 to 40 especially are the worst offenders. They're so boring. The armor hunt is a literal nightmare. Whoever designed the armor hunt should be fired right away. Like, get them out of there. They don't deserve to have a job in design. Ever. Number 2. The thing I like most about the game is the player-driven content. So over the last few weeks, over the last month, I've had so many hours of fun discussion on Discord, talking with my company, talking with Axios people, and just being a marauder and like getting into all the drama. There's so much drama. I could talk for like 2 hours just about the drama that my company had between us and like the rest of the faction, where we were like the pariahs of the faction who actually wanted to like fight wars, whereas the rest of the marauders were like trying to like enforce some sort of a weird treaty that they were discussing with the Covenant and the Syndicate. And we were like, no, we'll just fight no matter where, no matter when. And at this point, like, we are one of the dominant guilds, if not the dominant guild on the server, because everyone else left. So there's been so much drama. There's infamous people in the game that I know by name, or by game name. There's famous people, there's infamous people. It's that kind of incredible. It's the player-driven content is the best thing about the game, and the PvP makes it that good. And now number 1. The game was designed by people who don't understand MMOs. There's so many bugs. There's so many glitches. It wasn't tested properly. The beta of this game was garbage. I don't remember them doing an alpha. If they did, it was also terrible. You do not test the game by letting a bunch of streamers and everyone play the game for like a week or two and calling it a done deal. That's not the point. That's not the point. What they should have done, what every game should do, is they should take a small number of people on a single server, regular people who just want to play the game, and say, hey, we'll let you play the game completely on your own for a month. You have to sign this NDA, so you don't talk about any of it. And we'll let you play the game for like a month or 2. Or 2 months would be better. And just let it run. Let everyone get to 60 on their own in the server. A full server of 2,000 people. Let everyone get to 60 on their own. Let everyone form companies on their own. Let everyone play the game on their own. Do all the content available. And then work on the progress from there, because I cannot get to Reekwater and see that the glitches just aren't letting me play the game. I can't beat quests because the quests are bugged, and there's so many exploits in the wars for so long, and there's still like gold duping stuff that I hear about, and it just makes me not want to play. When all the quests work fine up until level 58, and suddenly they all start breaking in Reekwater, it makes me not want to play the game. It makes me want to look around for whatever's next, for whatever else is out there. A game that I can play that's not ruined. It really is just so disheartening. So disheartening to see a game like this come out. And it's just not ready. It's not ready. Whoever made the economy, anyone should have known this. If you let the game run for 3 weeks, you people would have known this. That the economy would do this because of the way it was set up with the pyramid structure. Without vendors, there's no bottom to the market. Vendors have been an everyday occurrence in every MMO for 15 years. So long, they've been there for so long that people forgot why they were there in the first place. Amazon Game Studios forgot the reason vendors exist in MMOs. I forgot it too. I wouldn't have thought about it. I always just think about vendors as a thing. And somewhere, some guy in Amazon went, hey, why do we need vendors? And no one could think of a reason. And now that there's none in the game, here it is. This is the reason. Vendors create a bottom to the economy. It creates a bottom to the market. You make the vendor price the absolute minimum price you could imagine an item selling for, and then it won't drop below that. Without that, there's no floor to the auction house. It just becomes a race to the bottom, which is exactly what you saw for the first month of the game. And now it's slightly stabilizing on my server, but I don't even know if that's because the server is just completely, if that's because the economy is stabilizing, because the game is better, or more likely because the player population is so gutted that there's not enough people actually farming mats anymore. It's just not good. I get to the end of the story quest and it just ends in Shattered Mountain. And Shattered Mountain people are like, yeah, well, shields up, don't know what to do about it. That's the game. Let's look at this actually. Achievements, 34% achievements. Quests. Total completed. 368 quests. How is that possible? Really? How can I have 160 quests left in this game? Look at where I am. Everything's done. I've got a couple quest lines left in Require. I've got maybe, a quest line up here in Mountain Home. Once I hit 60, I'll work on those. But let's look at this. I've got one quest left in the Fisherman quest line. All this is done. Eden Grove, I guess there's one more quest there, presumably. This was done a long time ago. They still haven't fixed this achievement. I don't know where this stuff comes from. It's just... It's just disheartening. I don't know another way to say it. I almost wonder if I should spend the next day and the weekend just doing nothing but farming, fishing. Maybe. I want there... This is the point at which new content would be coming out. And yet they can't even fix the problems with the game. It's taken me so long to get to 60, and it's like, it doesn't even matter. Because it doesn't matter how high level you are, when 50 ghosts spawn, when you see that quest up there, Paths Unseen, on top right of your screen, defend against the ruined pirates. What that doesn't tell you is that means once you get to the area, it'll spawn 50 pirates right on top of each other. 50 pirate ghosts right on top of each other, and they'll just, one-shot you. It's the same thing with the second quest, Burden of Atonement, complete the Dryad's Trial of Penance. What that means is you go to a spot, you stand there, enemies start spawning, except it's not one enemy at a time or two enemies, it's like 10 enemies. And then in the end it spawns the big monster, except it doesn't spawn one big monster, it spawns 3 big monsters. And they just one-shot you. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's just tiring. It really is. And I want them to fix this, but I don't want to have to wait to play the game for them to make the most basic problems solved. How did they not have anyone get to this point? How did they not have anyone, like, quality test their quests? Is this quest completely bugged? Would be, and uncompletable? Would be, like, a pretty basic QA thing. The game was not ready, and more you see these companies like, yeah, we'll just throw the game out there and fix it later. And I'm so tired of that. I'm so sick of it. $40 isn't a bad price for the game, but oh, is it getting dark? No, the sun's kind of dropping below the mountain. I know it must seem like I'm a little depressed. That's because I am. This game, I've put probably 180 hours into the game so far. It's pushing 200. I don't want to, like, you know, in a month be like, man, I can't believe I wasted all that time, you know? Wars happen too frequently. It's just, I don't think anyone in the game has won an invasion yet. I'm just tired of it. I gotta go to bed, but it's, I'm gonna hearth back to Everfall. So in summary, one of the best premises for a game ever, one of the best foundations that a game has ever had. Maybe the best foundation from an MMORPG since WoW came out in 2004. The most potential I've ever seen a video game with since classic WoW. And we all watched Blizzard destroy it. The potential was ruined. And I'm so sick of seeing games that could be amazing get ruined by morons. I'm tired of it. If a game isn't ready for release, don't release it. If this game was done, like completely done, without any of these obvious issues, I would have happily paid $60 for it. And I would be telling you right now that that's a good price. That it's a deal. That you're getting countless hours of enjoyment. I can't say that. Here's how I'm going to do my review. Here's how I'm going to do my metric. I'm going to tell you how much money I think you should spend for it. After playing this game, what I think this game is worth is exactly $40. Not a dime less, not a dime more. That's it. It's $40. Because it's not a AAA game. It's not ready to be a AAA game. I wouldn't get this with a subscription because it's not finished. And they haven't even announced any new content for it, so why would you get it with a subscription? But $40, I think, is still fine. It's just a shame to me, a real shame, that there's, at this point, like 750,000 people who played this game and decided it wasn't for them. Because I think the game right now could still have had, like, maybe a third of all those players who left. Who were hoping it was going to be the next cool MMO, and then it just wasn't, and it had too many issues. I think there could still be. I think we could have kept a lot of those people, and we didn't, and the game didn't, so that's a shame. That's all it is. So, game's worth $40. Yep. So, I'm not sad I bought it, but it wasn't like a great deal either. It was what the game was worth. So, Anyway, I'm gonna keep playing. I'm gonna try to get to 60. And then I'm probably just gonna craft stuff. I'm probably not gonna work on the quests anymore until they fix them, until the next patch. They've got to fix it in the next patch. They just have to. Because the quests are completely busted in Reef Water. Anyway. That's it for today. I gotta go to work tomorrow. But I hope all of my reviews of entertainment won't be this dire. But who knows? We'll see in the future. Signing off. Well, the Centrist signing